Okay, so this happened to me in 2015. It's gonna stay with me for the rest of my life because it was like so freaking creepy, and it was just really freaking weird. So basically, I was out of the country for a weekend and I stayed at a family's home for one night. I heard stories about this home, about like this ghost or like entity that would like spook and scare people. But I didn't think anything of it because they said that they had like taken care of that, and all of that stuff happened years ago. So when I went, it wasn't on my mind, like everything felt fine, there weren't weird vibes or anything, until I went to bed. So I go to bed and I'm on the floor and there are two girls on the bed. It's 12 a.m. at this point and I'm having a hard time falling asleep, but I don't really question it. I'm just like, oh, whatever. An hour goes by, I can't fall asleep. I'm starting to get annoyed. Another hour goes by, I can't fall asleep. I finally feel my eyelids getting really heavy. I'm super excited about that. I'm like, oh my God, yes, sleep, finally. As soon as I start getting really tired, something fucking grabs me by my shoulders and lifts me off of the floor and shakes me like this. And I like tried to scream, but I couldn't, so it got stuck in my throat, so it sounded really fucking weird. And I guess the two girls also weren't sleeping because they immediately were like, what the fuck, like, are you okay? I brushed it off. I was like, you know what, maybe, I think I was just dreaming, because like I didn't want to process it, because like I didn't know what was happening, you know what I mean? Like I was like, wait, did I dream that, or I don't know. It's like 3 a.m. now, and one girl leaves because she has to catch a flight. The other girl flies off from the bed and is like, you need to come sleep with me right now because I'm really scared. And I'm just like, oh my God, okay, like maybe I wasn't dreaming about that. So she was spooked out by this alcove, but I don't remember if anything happened to her. Her and I are also having a hard time sleeping again. 2 hours go by and I think I'm able to fall back asleep, but instead I have a fucking nightmare. And it's a real-time nightmare. So like I'm in bed, I'm in that home, and this girl crawls up from under the bed and is trying to eat my feet. I wake up and I'm like, I can't go back to sleep after that. 6 o'clock in the morning at this point, and I'm spooning her, and there's a pillow that's in between us, and on top of the pillow is her arm, and on top of her arm is my hand, and I'm just like holding her like this, but I'm not really holding it. My hand is just chilling over here. As soon as the both of us are starting to fall asleep, my hand tightens around her wrist and picks it up off the pillow and shakes it, and her and I are watching it happen. And I'm like, did you see that? She's like, I saw that. Did you do that? And I was like, I didn't do it. Did you somehow do that? Like push your arm up or something? She's like, no. So it was really weird to see my hand do something that I didn't make it do. So this thing was like preventing us from falling asleep and making it like a living hell to like not sleep. That is like so freaking, that's so evil, right? Like preventing someone from sleeping. Like, are you kidding me? Oh my God. And now when I look back and think about that like nightmare I had, I'm like, was that really a nightmare? Or did I see that happen?
"16 years ago, when I was in high school, I was living in Chicago, Illinois, and I got on what I thought was my bus. But where I got on served a bunch of different buses. It was a multi-bus bus stop, and I ended up accidentally getting on the 151, which is an express bus. It picks you up there on like the water tower area downtown, and it goes express for a very long time, and until you reach the north side of the city. So it bypasses the equivalent of like 10 or 12 bus stops, and then it drops you off at like the front or the north side of the city. Of course, I didn't know that. I get on the bus and I scan my pass and I see that the bus is full. It is so full that people are literally standing and holding on to the bars, and there's no room to stand except at the front of the bus. I'm gonna have to stand basically right behind the bus driver. Also, as I'm clocking that this bus is super full, there's an old man sitting in the seats for people who are, like pregnant and elderly, towards the front of the bus, and he makes eye contact with me as I'm observing the scene. And when he makes eye contact with me, he has a visible whiplash. He does a double take like I have never seen before. Being a teenager in Chicago, I assume that means he's gonna be like super creepy and hit on me, but that is not what happened. So as I'm getting my spot hanging onto the bar, which has to be right in front of him because there's no other spots, he starts going, it's you, I can't believe it's you, I can't believe it's you, I can't believe it. They told me you were gonna be here, but I didn't believe them because we've been waiting for so long. I can't believe it. Lord have mercy, I can't believe it, it's you. And weird shit happens on the bus all the time in Chicago, and even as a teenager, I just knew to just, oh, haha, yep, until it's safe to get away. I don't know if you guys have that experience where you're like, oh, this person is unhinged. I'm just going to haha until I can escape with my life. He just keeps going. He's like, I can't believe it. It's finally you. You're here. I can't believe it. The prophecy was true. I can't believe it. Oh, Lord have mercy. I never thought I'd meet you. I never thought the day would come, but here it is. And I'm just trying to, keep the peace. So I'm like, oh, yep, it's me all right. And I said something to the effect of, somebody told you I would be here? Because I didn't even know I would be here. This is also the moment where I can feel the bus is picking up speed and it's not slowing down to stop at the next stop. And I realize I'm on the wrong bus. So it's not looking good. And this man looks at me and he says, I knew it was you. I know it was you. And they told me I would know it was you because we have the same birthday. They said that would be the sign. They said I would know it was you because we have the same birthday. I can't believe you're here. I can't believe you're here. And that's when I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be easy. And I said, oh, the same birthday? That's crazy, but I haven't even told you my birthday. And he goes, it doesn't matter. I know it's you. I know it's you because we have the same birthday. And just to keep him entertained, I said, oh, that's wild. When is your birthday? This man dead ass looks at me and says, November 29th, which is also my birthday. So now I'm freaking out. And I say, oh, no, it's not. You're just tricking me. You're just pranking me. You weren't born on November 29th. He shows me his ID and his birthday is November 29th. And I'm shook. And I am no longer thinking this is even the least bit funny or entertaining, and I don't know what I'm gonna do because the bus is not stopping, and even when it does stop, I don't know where it's going. I have no idea where I'm gonna get off the bus. Luckily, a gentleman not far from us clocks that something weird is going on. And weird shit happens all the time on the bus in Chicago, but he can tell that it is not good and that I'm really scared. And when I was 16, I looked like I was 12. I didn't even look close to my age. So he probably thought I was even younger than I was. So this older gentleman sitting down, it's clear I'm going with him in his mind. It's clear that as soon as his bus stop comes, he's going to show me stuff. He's going to take me somewhere. He's going to take me to someone or someplace. And it is very clear that we are not parting ways on that bus. So the second gentleman leans over and he whispers to me, he says, at the next bus stop, you're going to get off the bus, you're going to cross the street, and you're going to get on the first bus going back in this direction. And I explained to him, I said, this isn't my bus. I don't know where this is going. And he said, listen to me. You're going to get off the bus at the next stop. You're going to cross the street and you're going to get on whatever bus comes first in the opposite direction. And then you can ask that bus driver where you need to be. So this gentleman grabs my arm nicely, he didn't grab me like he was gonna kidnap me. And he starts pulling me through the crowd toward the back door. That way, if this other man tries to pursue us, it'll be really difficult for him to catch up with us. Meanwhile, this older gentleman is saying, where are you going? Where are you going? There's so much to do. There's so much to do. He pulls me all the way to the back doors through the crowd. And as soon as the bus stops at whatever the first stop it was that it needed to stop at, and the doors open, he pushes me out the doors. He shoves me. This man with full force shoves me out the door and he says, go, cross the street and go. And so I tumble onto the sidewalk and I just do it. I just run across the street to the bus stop going in the other direction. And luckily the next bus to come was also a 151. So it just cyber shot me all the way back to where I started. And it didn't take, an hour and a half of bus stops. And I made it back to the mall and I was able to get on the right bus and I was able to finally go home. But to this day, I remember that man's ID was the same birthday as me. I did not tell him my birthday. I didn't have it anywhere on my clothing. There was no indication. I didn't even have my school lanyard on, so you can't even do the math. And even if he had, I looked like I was 12, so he would have thought I was, born at a different time than I actually was. But I have no idea who that was. I have no idea what he was talking about. I have no idea what the prophecy was. And I've just been waiting ever since to find out who the hell I am and why I was sent here. So if you know anything about a November 29th prophecy, let me know, because I'm just a little spooked.
I was 22 years old. I had just gotten married, and me and my ex-husband bought our first house. And I always felt a presence in this house, but it wasn't necessarily something that felt evil to me or that was really very concerning to me. It was just always kind of there. And just to provide a bit of context, I do come from a very spiritual family. Both my grandma and my mom seem to have a sixth sense. It's really hard to say. But anyway, because of this, I 1000% believe in spirits and the paranormal. So fast forward to about a year, we've been living in this house, and my mom comes to visit us for the first time. She stays in one of the upstairs bedrooms, and the next morning I walk out and she's in the kitchen just quietly sipping a cup of coffee, and the very first thing she says to me is, "You know you have a spirit in this house, right?" And I was like, "Well, no, I don't know that, but if you're telling me that, I definitely believe you, because I have for sure felt a presence here, but it's never felt like it was very concerning to me." And she honestly didn't seem super concerned about it either. We just kind of quickly prayed about it and then didn't really talk about it again for the rest of the time she was there. And she stayed in that room another 3 days, and we just kind of moved on from it. Fast forward now a couple of weeks later, and me and my ex-husband are laying in bed. It's the middle of the night, and I am laying flat on my back, and I wake up, and there is a man standing over me in a hoodie like this, just staring down at me. And I don't see his face at all. I just see this black hood and a black sweater hoodie. And immediately, I think someone has broken into the house and we are about to be unalived. So I immediately start flailing my arms and legs, screaming at the top of my lungs. Obviously, my ex-husband wakes up. He gets up, turns on all the lights in the house, goes through every room, every closet, every nook and cranny that anyone could possibly be hiding. He goes outside, front yard, backyard. No one is there. And also, all the doors were locked. None of the windows were open or broken, and the alarm was never tripped. So he comes back into the bedroom, we talk about what I saw, and we basically just liken it to it had to just be a very, very realistic nightmare. So fast forward to the very next morning. It is around dawn. The sun is just coming out and there's just a little bit of light coming through the window. I randomly wake up and I see this man, this entity, standing at the edge of the dresser, facing the window and looking out the window. And all I can see is the side profile, but it's definitely the same entity. And I think to myself, oh, I'm having this same dream again, but I need to make sure that I'm actually dreaming because I feel like I'm awake. 1000% feel like I'm awake. So I take my hand and I place it on top of my ex-husband's chest, and I definitely can feel his chest and I feel him breathing, and I know immediately this is real. I am not asleep. I am awake, and this thing is here in the room with me. So when I have this realization, I gasp. Just a very quick breath in. And when I do that, the entity turns and looks at me. And when he does, his entire face, or where his face should have been, is just bright white, glowing bright white. And then he disappears. And the craziest part about this to me is that I was not afraid at all. In fact, I went right back to sleep. I did not wake my ex-husband up. I did not scream. I didn't gasp. I did nothing. I literally laid right back down, and it took maybe 30 seconds for me to get back to sleep. When we woke up that morning, I told my ex-husband what happened, and he believed me. That instance, coupled with the one before, and also coupled with what my mom had told us about the house previously, and just knowing the history of my family, it was not ever a question for him. He immediately believed me. And then it was just kind of basically like, well, what do you want to do? Or do you feel like you should take action? How are you feeling in this moment? And I was basically kind of like, well, I don't feel scared and I don't feel afraid. I kind of think maybe we just see what happens next. And something definitely did happen next. So it was maybe 2 days later, 2 or 3 days later. I wake up again around dawn, just a little bit of sun coming through the window, and the entity is now sitting on a basket of laundry that was at the edge of the bed. And again, he is facing towards the window, looking out the window. This time I had no reaction at all, so he didn't turn to look at me because I didn't gasp, I didn't make any noise at all. I basically just went right back to sleep. Again, I was not afraid at all, and when we woke up for the day, I told my ex-husband what happened, and again, he was just kind of like, well, what do you want to do? Are you okay? Do you want to take action? What's the next step? And again, I was just kind of like, I mean, I think it's all right. I'm just gonna kind of chill until like I feel differently about it. Now, craziest part of this encounter is that later on that day, I decide that I need to fold this laundry that's in this laundry basket, which the entity was sitting on, because it had been there for 2-3 days at least. So I dump it out onto the bed, and the clothes are hot, like I had just taken them out of the dryer, hot. And no, the basket was not sitting in the sun. It was not in any spot in the room where it would have been exposed to heat at all. And again, the laundry had been sitting there for at least 2 days, and the clothes were hot on the inside. But after that, a couple of weeks went by and I didn't have any more experiences with this entity, so I kind of just assumed maybe it had moved on or got bored with me. I don't know. Until one day I was walking out of the kitchen to the living room. So our house was kitchen, dining room, living room. So I'm walking from the kitchen through the dining room towards the living room. And I just kind of quickly glance over my shoulder. I don't recall why. I don't know if I heard a noise or what. I do not remember. But I just quickly glance over my shoulder, and there he is. Just for a split second, he's there. And I don't know why, but I said out loud, I am not afraid of you. And then after that, I never saw him again. And to this day, I don't know why he chose to reveal himself to me. The only thing I can think of is that he maybe heard my mom telling me that there was a spirit in the house and he didn't want me to be afraid. So he revealed himself to me, and definitely scared me the first time. So he just had to reveal himself a few more times to make sure that I understood that he was not a threat. And then once I said I was not afraid, he was able to move on. Of course, this is all speculation. I don't know. Now, all that being said, this is really just one instance of paranormal activity in that house. There was definitely more that went on there, and one in particular that my mom also called out, but with her instruction and her guidance, I was able to eradicate it quite quickly. If you guys would like to hear about that one, drop me a comment and I will tell you about it. So I just saw this comment. You are definitely onto something here. We had a spot in the backyard that was maybe the size of a circular hot tub where no grass would grow. It didn't matter what we did, how much we watered it. We even tried to plant grass and it would just die in this one spot in a circle, again, about the size of a circular hot tub. So we just chalked it up to maybe the previous owners had a hot tub there and it just ruined the soil. We really couldn't explain it. My ex-husband was actually the one that asked the exact same question you're asking now, which is, when you see the entity and he's looking out the window, which direction is he facing? It was always towards that patch in the yard where grass doesn't grow. And hell no, we did not research it. We did not look into it. I did not want to know. I did not want to potentially invite anything else into the house or into our lives by digging further into it, so to speak.
You guys really seem to enjoy these ghost stories, so I'm going to give you another one from back in 2011. Now, my wife and I just sold our home. We had a small townhouse in downtown Fort Lauderdale, and when we got married, we had bought it together, and then we started having babies, having some kids. So we did like most people in Fort Lauderdale that live downtown, they start moving out to the suburbs. So we rented a house in Sunrise, Florida. I will say this, that I've investigated, I would say 30 plus private homes in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale. And I would say over half of those have been in Sunrise. I don't know what it is about Sunrise, Florida, but there's something that happened there. I don't know, but there's some definite energy in that space. We were super excited to move into this house because it was a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath with a pool. Very beautiful home in a very nice neighborhood. Had a park right down the street. So for my family, we were super stoked. But within the first couple of days of being there, I started getting this very strange vibe. Now, I've said 100 times that I'm not as sensitive, but I can tell when energy starts to shift, especially if that energy's dark. And this energy that was there wasn't in the entire house. It was in one room. And it just happened to be in the room that my wife and I set up as a playroom for our 2 young sons. You could feel that energy permeate from that room anytime you walk down the hall. Like you could physically feel it. And it was so bad that I would not allow my kids in that room. And I kept the door closed all the time. We had a couple of dogs that every time that they would walk down the hall would walk down the opposite side of where that door was, like the edge. So after being there for a few months, my wife and I made friends with some of the neighbors. There was a neighbor across the street, his name was Leroy, fantastic dude, was a fireman there for Fort Lauderdale and in Sunrise. And I started asking him, I said, man, did anything happen in that house? I said, I'm getting a really weird vibe. And he said, I'll be honest with you, he said, the guy that lived there before you had a family. Much like yours, except his kids were older than mine, because mine were 3 and 1 at that time. Now, him and his wife ended up divorcing and they moved out of that house. But within a week or 2 of them moving out of that house, he himself. Now, I don't know if that has anything to do with the energy that's in that space. I'm not one of those people that believe that yourself causes you to get stuck here on this earth. But that energy that was in that particular space, that one room, was super heavy. Several months later, I had a very unique experience in this house. My wife and I got up in the morning, getting ready for work and getting ready to start the day. She was packing up our kids to take them to the daycare, which was about a mile away from our home. In the morning rush, you're having breakfast, you're packing lunches, you're going through all your routine stuff. I kiss her goodbye, I kiss my 2 boys goodbye, they walk out the door. I walk to the very back bedroom, which was the master bedroom, and finalize getting my stuff together. I'm back there for about 5 or 10 minutes, not very long, and I hear laughing, like children laughing. So in my brain, they forgot something, they came back in, my kids are back inside the house. So I'm walking back up the hallway, and I walk past that room that has all this heavy energy in it. And when you get to the end of the hallway, you make a left into the kitchen, because that's where I heard the laughing coming from. And as I'm walking back up through the hallway, I reach out to my wife, or I speak out to my wife and said, hey, did you guys forget something? And as soon as I turned the corner, the laughing stopped. It was 2 children. they were having a conversation back and forth and laughing with each other. I ran to the front door. I looked out. My wife's car is gone. She's probably halfway to the school by then. All the windows in the house are closed. It's Florida. It's hot down here. We don't leave the windows open. Plus they're hurricane windows, so no outside noise was coming in there. And then that energy that was in that room came into the house. Like it was everywhere. I was saturated in this heaviness, so much so that I needed to get out of that space as soon as possible. Which is ironic because I go to try to put myself in these spaces and I want to experience that energy. But I don't want to experience it where I live. Now, as soon as our lease was up, we signed a 1-year lease. As soon as our lease was up, we got out of there. I've always wanted to go back and maybe speak to whoever moved in after us to see if they too were experiencing what we experienced. But, I can't say for sure. I never saw anything. I never saw any poltergeist activity there. I don't know what may have been in that space. But this is all part of Sunrise, Florida, and whatever happened there happened way before people ever built homes there, in my opinion. So, do you believe in ghosts? Do you believe in ghosts can exist? Do you believe energy can be and haunt the space? I would really love to hear your comments. Thanks.